Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I am here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello.
And today we are doing a SuperWonder Valentine's Day special.
Yeah,
So,
it's all lovey-dovey.
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So what we're going to do, as you guys have known, Brit and I did like a comparison of like a bunch of different DC Comics couples throughout like the various DC and Marvel throughout our tenure of the show. By the way, how fortuitous is it that this happens to be episode 80 when we do this?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
We synchronized.
episode 80.
We are getting so good at naturally synchronizing these sort of things.
Somehow it works. So the way we're going to do this, if this thing will actually work, okay, here we go, is we are going to go over every couple that we've compared, and we're going to go over some other stuff too. So first off, let's say hi to the people in the chat. We got, hey, what's up, Cameron? What's up, Giratina? What's up, Daniel? Yes, happy Valentine's Day to you,
Happy
brother.
Valentine's Day.
And what's up, silly girl? So let's get this crazy train rolling. So, by the way, Wonder Woman and Superman have been the subjects of DC Comics like Valentine's Day specials before. So let's talk about that first. So we have we have DC Comics Presents and Young Romance. Yes, of course, during the new 52. And yes, Britt, we're all 20 more weeks and we're at episode 100.
Yay.
That's got to be like a special episode. Yeah, that'll be fun.
It will be.
So, all right. So, Britt, tell us about these two books.
Okay, so as we know, Young Romance is an anthology in 2013, and it's basically DC does these every year. Ironically, this one was the highest selling of, I believe it was. So anthologies, they don't sell as like an ongoing book. It has to be a special, Batman, Joker, or something like that. So these specials, it's pretty much a good seller when it's at the 30 to 20K range or something like that. So this one, around about probably 35K. And
Oh, really? The one that really lay into SuperWonder sold the most. It's funny how that works.
And obviously the cover. You have to love the cover.
That's a hot-ass cover.
Yes, it is. And funnily, the I think it was 2017 when they had Darkseid Lois on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And that one sold a mere 11K. So yeah, it was a big 50% drop of those. But yes, the Superman and Wonder Woman one was the bestseller, and it had the hottest couples. It had BatCat, it had Aquaman and Mera. I believe it was Apollo and Midnighter. I think you had Green Arrow and Black Canary. Yeah, so it was very fun at that time. And this one is centered around Eros. And Clark, of course, he becomes possessed.
And then Clark threw another god through a volcano.
Well, unfortunately, no, he didn't.
Dang.
He was he fought Diana just a little bit, and then Eros, he felt like, well, if you are going to be with my cousin, then you are going to love her forever. So this Eros, or Cupid, has guns instead of the traditional bow and arrow. So he shot a bullet. And Diana says that, if Clark is going to be with her and love her, it will be his own choice and not, Arrows basically influencing him. And of course, they did the cliche of Clark being faster than a speeding bullet. So he catches the bullet and he says, basically, it is his choice to love her.
Aww.
Now, On the flip side, we have this pre-crisis story, 1981, of DC Presents 32. And this is where um, Eros is not Diana's cousin. He is, so it doesn't make it weird, but he is in love with her and wants her to be with him.
Oh, because this is when she was made of clay and not Zeus. I see what
Right.
you're saying there.
So Eros, out of his frustration and out of spite, he, decides to shoot an arrow at Superman, he was coming to the tower for something, but it's kind of like they're playing on fate, like, oh, Superman just so happens to have come here so I can, do this. And really what this story is kind of like within pre-crisis, Clark and Diana's relationship was platonic,
Mhm.
but it did play on teases and hints. So with this, it's basically saying that yes, we can hint around with it. They do have like these feelings, but they are unaware, and maybe the reader is unaware, but of course, at the end, they have to remain within the status quo of being with Lois and Steve. So, but within this story, we have Clark and Diana. They are bound by this spell put upon them by Eros. And even though they are consciously aware of the spell, it also brought out feelings that they didn't know that they, kind of had. And it's also the story where Superman he he had a more equal balance within his identity too. So if you called him by his Kryptonian name Cal, then it felt like, oh, you are very close to him, which is funny because that just cements that when Diana calls him Cal, that shows their closeness.
Yeah, it's not ignoring the Earth part of it. It annoys me whenever I hear that argument.
Right. And you are within this page, we see that Clark and Diana are trying to avoid, the awkwardness of it, that it might not be just the spell itself, that and it's also that the quote that Super Wonder fans like to use about them being inevitable, and that it is something that is natural, but it might need a little push here and there.
Hmm.
So they go to Aphrodite to try. Well, they go looking for Eros to find Aphrodite. Aphrodite is telling Eros basically that he didn't do anything too drastic, but he can't, like, love can't be forced, and it has to be something that has to come natural. And obviously, we see that Clark and Diana do have a certain love for each other. And but again, it was platonic within pre-crisis with the subtle hints, only because again they were trying to keep up with the status quo.
Yeah, and it's like what Daniel says. For those people who claim that Super Wonder is just a new 52 thing, it's not. It's not.
Right,
So then
right,
we get to this one, which so first off, I do like how it's like how like this seems pretty. When I was reading this scene, it seems a lot like it's the kind of the sequel to that conversation they had on top of the Washington Monument because it's like wait, it was the Lincoln Memorial. It was somewhere in DC, but
right, right.
it essentially because they're talking about similarly the same thing about the whole secret identity and stuff.
Right. This one is more obviously they are in an actual relationship,
Hmm.
and it does seem like a continuation of their conversation in Justice League 12. And you also get where Diana understands about the secret identity, because at first she's kind of like, why do you have to hide yourself? Is like, are you ashamed? And honestly, that is a valid question
Hmm.
for writers and to question that through Diana, because we see how Superman is written as him, rejecting his Kryptonian heritage and feeling ashamed because he isn't just purely human in that mortal aspect. So with Diana here, she is still showing that she understands that the difference is it's not being ashamed, it's just out of protection. And
Mhm.
how also her, flirtatious of keeping secrets, but she also will use the lasso if he ever, keeps a secret from her. And again, you have Eros at the center of it all, with the guns instead of
Yep.
the bow and arrow.
That is just so badass. I need to. That is. See, that's the thing. Say what you want about the new 52 gods. Like, yeah, Athena was weird. It's basically an owl person. But a lot of them were actually really badass.
Right. I did like the designs because it gave them, they were still divine, but at the same time, New 52 had this grounded type feel, and they wanted to be realistic and modern. Um, Having Eros as kind of like this, he gave you this cowboy vibe, this, country boy vibe. It worked. Um, and for Eros to be like within the mix of Clark and Diana's relationship woes and their complications, or making it, you have pre crisis wackiness, and then the more realistic version of their relationship with New 52. But both stories really just show that Clark and Diana's relationship is something that's very layered, and it's it's complex.
Yeah, exactly. And Daniel says that restaurant scene was performed in Justly Throne of Atlantis to a degree, but
Mm,
mostly I thought that was the one in Throne of Atlantis.
yeah,
They
it
took they
is.
took elements from that kind of maybe inadvertently because I don't know which came out first, but it was mostly the one that was actually in.
Atlantis, yeah.
Yeah. So then we get to yeah. Here's the thing that I always try to tell people about Superman and Wonder Woman being together. Ignoring Steve and Lois, because that's always a good thing because they are they are characters that should be ignored, but ignoring them,
Right.
eventually they die, and it's like this is the eventuality. This will happen eventually.
Right. That, and the thing is with that, it's not waiting for them to kick the bucket.
I am.
Um
This
like,
is the one time I'm going to say this on the show. Thank you, he who must not be named, who is ruining the Wonder Woman book.
well, it's a degree of expense to it because Diana is, unlikable. But yes,
Yeah,
it's
I'm ignoring the what came of it, but I'm just saying the very act that the dude was shot like a dog in the comic book. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, and then dumped in the river. I'm like, okay, cool.
yeah, that was pretty pathetic, but we just gonna let that go. Um but I would say that their relationship can work, um whether it's the beginning where they're young, and just starting out as heroes, and then they can, or start in the middle or start at the end, like Kingdom Come. They can have this relationship that can just start anywhere really and build off on it. Of course, we like the fact of them being friends first,
Hmm?
building that trust and that slow burn type, but very aware of their attraction to each other type thing. And I would say that post crisis, it it's a pro and a con to it, because if it, you know with Action Comics 600, that wanted to make it seem like they were too different, which doesn't make sense. But you know um with Byrne's iteration of Superman, of course they're different. They're vastly different,
Yeah.
especially with the fact that he wanted Clark with a, well, I think she was of age, but of course he, you
Uh,
know, yeah, but he wanted Clark with Lana,
when
and
she was of age. Yeah, I know
yeah,
what you're
when
talking about.
she,
But then he did that really weird story.
yeah. So, but then you also have he wanted Clark to be like the poster boy for the status quo, and he who shall not be named, number 5,000, that is ruining the Wonder Woman book, gave us the preview of that iteration of Superman again.
We'll talk
Um,
about that later. But yeah, when
yes,
I read that, I was like, there's a lot of logical like problems with that.
yeah. So we have that Superman, and the thing is, what makes Clark and Diana's relationship work is because both of them aren't stooges to the very problematic ways of um, America. They are American heroes. However, it's very complex of them being immigrants and being, as he who shall not be named, who's ruining the Wonder Woman book. He put it as them being strangers to the world, or just Justice League 12 of them being basically the in-betweeners. They aren't gods, and they aren't mortal either. So it's like they basically can't just choose one over the other. They have to just be right in the middle. And for Clark to choose, you know, one over the other ruins his character. It basically, either way you do it, you are diluting the character.
Yeah.
So post crisis, that is one of the cons of it, that 600 really diluted the relationship and Clark as a character. But with Perez, how he, in a very professional manner, but still very shady, basically called that out, that Diana and Perez and maybe readers thought that Superman was supposed to be progressive. He was supposed to be the one fighting to get ahead, not fighting to stay stagnant. And he just wasn't, he was lacking. Then we have the story, or the storyline of Clark thinking that he wasn't good enough for Diana, which is something that, okay, you have a high, um, you think highly of her, kind of putting her on a pedestal that she doesn't agree to, but at the same time, you know her worth, and you know that you have to be worthy of her, and that could be a good character arc, and character growth. However, it seems more like a pity thing that was in post crisis.
And the funny
So
part is that would lead to the establishment of the Shelterverse.
yes, and of course we are exploring that in a vastly different way. That Clark recognizes that he can be worthy of Diana, and he doesn't have that self pity, of himself, and of rejecting his heritage, and all of that, wanting to fit in within the norm in a very, like I said, problematic manner. So within New 52, we have the more progressive modern Superman. We have the modern day golden age Superman that fits Diana's perspective of how to, push the world to be better, to be in peace, to, really take head on the problems that um, go that goes within culture and America. And honestly, within that, it, those iterations of the characters are what we need now, honestly, because of the political climate. And no, we don't want to force um, that within the comics in a way that's annoying or
Contrived.
problematic, yeah, contrived. But we want to still show that these characters are putting out a message that they are supposed to. These characters are supposed to still show children the way of the world in a sense of understanding, but we aren't supposed to sit by and let it, just fall apart. We are supposed to make things better. And as readers, adult readers or children, you are supposed to have this message of still coming together for peace, for betterment and stuff like that. But yet, no, we don't have that. We have a Superman that's, well, we'll get to that later, but a Superman that's very, he's not sending out that message that he's supposed to.
He's
But
not fighting the sovereign.
right. So with, like I said, with New 52, pair, they were the modern progressive pairing that fought against um the norm and the way, and they fought against the status quo, both literally and figuratively in DC. So yeah, their relationship matters a lot. And within the story, we see that they do have this understanding that there is a love that they have for each other, whether it starts out platonically and evolves, or is right there if it starts out like with New 52. So yeah, it is good to see different stories of how their relationship plays out. It's so much better than, which is ironic because how some say Superman and Wonder Woman relationship is predictable or obvious, yet you have the quote unquote established relationships where that's the most obvious and predictable because it goes within the same story beats.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Enzo says that Japan likes Super Wonder because in the Superman Meishi manga, they had a sushi date.
Oh yeah, and he also said that Diana, he also compared Diana to sushi. He called her soft and squishy.
Okay, I'm using that as an idea. That is so good. All right. So now, all right. So Britt and I have covered a lot of different couples and compared them to Superman and Wonder Woman. So what we're gonna do, obviously, we're gonna do Super Wonder as well because we are a Super Wonder show. But we're gonna talk about how each of the couples that we have covered so far, and maybe next year we'll do the same with like a different batch of couples. But we're gonna compare how each couple would spend a Valentine's Day date. So let's roll out. So obviously, first Superman, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, so this story is basically Clark. He wants to have a special Valentine for Diana because they have been busy, and it's just like, let's just take a break. And it's really inspired by the Christmas story from um issue 3, or yeah, it was issue 3
Mm-hmm.
of Superman and Wonder Woman, where Diana is like, what is, the gift to give Superman? And it's basically the gift of time to relax. So that is what Clark wants for Diana, for them to just take time together. It doesn't necessarily have to mean just, go out and fancy dinners or anything, but just take time for each other. However, of course, it is inevitable that they have um, a mission to do, which is, we talked about this, about them going, basically a play on War World, that they have to save civilization. Sorry, and it is a world that is basically like Krypton. Very desolate, very like unemotional, and it's showing how Clark is, he's like, I don't want the any world to have the same fate as Krypton. So of course he's going to want to help, and then having Diana by his side, and she is the peacemaker, of course. So, and a strategist within wars and stuff like that. So this is our rewrite of War World in a sense, but it's Valentine's. And you see when these people see Clark and Diana working together and the relationship that they have and how they inspire them, then you have where it's sort of like these people or a certain maybe the leader sees Jarrell and Cal, of course, and the comparison of Laura and Diana, and telling a story that maybe they've met Jarrell and Laura before Krypton um, exploded, but yeah, it's just a play on that of Krypton trying to prevent other worlds and Clark learning more of how he has to be not just the hero of Earth or the hero of Metropolis, but he has to be the hero of the whole galaxy, and Krypton, the elves, any Kryptonians are known. And then Diana, she is the representative of the Amazons. And not so much as the gods, but she is. So that gives another, um, I would say, another tether in a sense of connection. So yeah, once they see that Clark and Diana are this unit, they become inspired to be, to change their way of living, to save their own planet.
I love that. That's cool. That definitely, I think it would work. I also see like the universe. It's like maybe it's like a planet that Superman has saved before in the past, but they're like, Superman, what do you think you should do? He points to Diana. Ask her. She's a diplomat.
Right. It's just like I see them. Um, I guess I'm tired of the same old, saving Metropolis, and
Hmm.
um, I I would say that this is Clark and Diana has inspired, Earth and culturally, and with Diana working as an ambassador. But at a certain point, they need to expand, to out into the galaxy because other worlds need help, and they are the main ones that could help. And you know, I believe that Jarrell, if DC were to, write that in, and I think the 52 did anyway, of them traveling to different planets and stuff and just trying to connect, different species together, different, you know, worlds together to help one another within the whole galaxy to not have black holes, appearing,
Hmm.
not have galactical wars everywhere. It's just everyone is eventually at peace. So that is Clark's or Cal's purpose, you know, beyond Earth. And Diana is the one that can help him with that.
Yep, I dig that. Next up, by the way, the titles for these were so on point. I'm just gonna give you major kudos for those.
Thank you.
Great job. I love them. Then we have Deep as the Ocean, Aquaman and Mera.
Okay, so here we have you know, the ocean for us in reality, we don't know what's like deep down there, so it's something that could be very magical and, something maybe we aren't supposed to see, maybe we are, eventually. But Aquaman and Mira, they have the chance to see that. And it's something that's very um, sacred and just something so beautiful, and something intimate for them. to see. However, it is somewhere that, again, just like in our reality of our oceans and stuff in the depths of things, it it all depends on should you tamper with such things. But so when they go down there, it is not so much a curse, but it is some like a creature down there, and they, interrupts its um, hibernation, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they have to fight it and, put it back um, at peace or sleep or, you know, set it free. And then they are able to see the beauty of the place, you know.
That
This,
works.
yeah. So I think that with Aquaman and Mera are basically we've already said that they are the
SuperWonder with
super
water.
wonder, yeah. And so if Clark and Diana are out in space, Aquaman and Mera are deep in the sea.
Mm. That kind
And
of works.
yeah, so with this, they are very much just having a place of their own, far away from Atlantis, far away from, the troubles that they may have. And it's just, like I said, it's a sacred place that they make, of their own. And
So in a
it's
way, it's like their undersea fortress of solitude.
basically, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm. There you go. I figured. A couple things you could do, like the creature. So the creature from Aquaman that would like only listen to you if you had like the trident could be with that, and that can like weigh into like Arthur's like royal heritage because he is like the son of the queen and stuff, and this is like part of how he symbolically deals with like because we can have in the story kind of like how we have with Superman and Wonder Woman that he deals with like I'm like half Atlantean, but as far as I knew for like the longest time, I was raised human. So we could say he kind of still because he for the most part in terms of comics he struggles to reconcile like his Atlantean heritage. I almost said Kryptonian. Wow, that would have been a Freudian slip with his human heritage. So you can kind of have that where like he's where like Mira goes Arthur, all it takes is a wonderful thing called balance.
exactly, exactly.
And that's the thing. That's the thing about a lot of writers with Superman, like Byrne, because and th- what a lot of writers do with Superman and Wonder Woman to a degree, but mostly Superman, at least from what I see, is they treat Superman like Batman. Because here's the thing about Batman, and we'll talk about this when we get to BatCat, but I'll just preview it now, whatever. But the thing about Batman is that there really is no Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne died when his parents were gunned down in that alley. So it's like he doesn't really necessarily have the Bruce Wayne identity. So they kind of try here's the problem. Whenever DC tries to apply stuff that work for Batman, for Superman, or another character, they do it in like the drag and drop thing, and I'm like, that's not the way it works because yeah, Superman can kind of have that, but you still need the balance because Superman, yes, he was raised as a human as far as he knew, but then he wears a Kryptonian glyph everywhere on his face, on his chest, and sometimes back. And he has a fortress of solitude made from Kryptonian crystals. You can't ignore the Kryptonian part. At the same time, though, there are some writers that try and go too far in the Kryptonian side and forget the human side. You really can't like ignore that. And by the way, Cameron brings up a good point. By the way, I learned it wasn't just the Superman and Lois show that did this, but that's like where I first heard it. So it was in a comic, but I remember they said that in Superman and Lois where he goes, Clark is who I am. Clark is who I am. Superman is what I can do. And I'm like, that is the most profound misunderstanding of who Superman is, I think.
Right, it is. I can't stand that quote. Um, it it really it's not called, Clark Kent's Comics. It's not called Clark. It's not called Smallville unless you are watching the Smallville show. Um, but it's again, you want to have a balance within the characters and show how they are complex. You can't just choose one persona over the other. You have to know how to balance both, and um, both identities are to help each other, at some point. But yeah, that part was basically that quote, in that mindset for Superman is basically how, they see Krypton as a burden, and how Byrne said that, being an immigrant, or if immigrants want to honor their heritage, that they're selfish, or whatever he said, in that aspect. And you are basically supposed to forget where you came from, and
Exactly.
just accept this way of life to be accepted. And no, that is not how life works. That's not how um, people do things. You are supposed to know where you come from. You are supposed to honor, you know, um, where you came from, or remember it in a sense, because that is respect. And with Clark, your parents saved you. You wouldn't be on Earth if they didn't put you in the rocket. So you can't just say, oh, Krypton is bad, or you can't honor the elves or something like that, when they are the ones that saved him. And also, he is a Moses allegory. I think that a lot of writers and fans forget that. He isn't this, um, he is supposed to know of himself to help push, everyone else forward, and be the champion of the oppressed. But again, a lot of writers forget that.
I think it's because it's just hard for some reason. And Mac brings up it was John Byrne. That makes sense. That really makes sense. By the way, Cameron says, if you think about it, Bruce has one identity, Clark has two, and Diana has zero. I just figured that out. Yeah, the DC treats her like she doesn't have an identity, I think.
Well, yeah, you have Diana of the Mascara, and then you have Wonder Woman. So she actually does have two, but it's not like Clark's. The thing is with Diana, her her identity is more so of her representation, and being in the expectations and the pedestal that she's on as the ambassador and representative of the mascara, and to an extent the gods. But to her, and who she is just Diana, the girl from an island. And she wants to be an adventurer, and learn of cultures and stuff like that, and even be basically a foodie, you know. Um, and then you have Wonder Woman, who is global, known as the hero. So she does have sometimes in the complex of identity, but it's not as complex as Clark's, and she doesn't have an identity crisis though. She know who she is, and she accepts who she is, but it is certain aspects that she, you know, is knowing that she isn't all Wonder Woman, and she isn't all the just the princess of the mascara, or the representative of the mascara and the gods.
Yeah, exactly. Cameron says, frankly, in my opinion, Diana does not need a secret identity. Yeah, she doesn't really, particularly when you have someone that's like a being of truth. Yeah, this is one of those things where she doesn't need it, but you can tell some good stories if she does have it.
Right, like I would say you could really just have Diana as this celebrity lifestyle, but she is very humbled about it. So if you don't have the secret identity, it you can play it off like that. Um, in reality, think of it as reality. Celebrities do it all the time. They have a very private life. You don't know um, a lot of things from some celebrities. The only time you know things is if they want you to, or if it is out in the open.
If it leaks out, like I kid you not, there was this one like paparazzi post that's like Reese Witherspoon goes on a coffee run, and I'm like,
Right. If it's
how is
something
this
like that,
essential information?
right. I mean, they would definitely say, with New 52, how they had News 52 when they were talking about, Clark and Diana together and the supposed, or, just with talking about the Wonder Woman book with Orion, and if it was going to be a love triangle, or Clark and Diana, or Diana, you know, liking ice cream or something like that. It will just be something fun.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. And next up, one of my favorite eras of DC, the Lantern Corps. By the way,
Yeah.
Twilight of Love is solid.
Thank you. So this is playing on, again, you have these cosmic lovers. Um, Hal and Carol, they've known each other for a long time, best friends since childhood. And but this is playing on the fact of how he's pretty much in the same boat as Clark. It's like, am I worthy of this woman? You know? And he, within this
Wait,
story,
hang on, Giratina. These are not actual comics. We are just making up our own stories about that.
yeah, I would, appreciate if this would
They
become
could.
something real.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we will have to do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So within this story, they are trying to have a very simple date. I saw a panel where basically Hal is broke.
Mm-hmm.
so
Where he's in his little trailer.
so we play on that because he's broke, he can do so much, and he tries to make the best of it. However, they are thrust upon, this cosmic thing, and it's playing on their fears, of being in a relationship, and how, they are best friends, and will a relationship ruin that? So you have Carol, that is, will he, choose her? Will he, you know, be able to commit to her, the way she feels that he should? And then you have Hal feeling as though, am I even worthy? Do I have basically the willpower to, make this work, or will he fumble? And I think that now that you've explained, Hal isn't a womanizer, and he isn't
He's
just,
not.
yeah, he isn't just flirting with everyone, and all of that. He might have tried to charm, just a little bit, but his heart is with Carol. And that is basically what this story is about, is showing that all of the misconceptions of how, and anything like that is being basically explored and debunked.
Yeah, exactly. You can even have it where to prove his devotion to her, he takes off his ring and hands it to her.
Aw.
There you go. All right, Graviton had a fantastic comment. He says, decided to reread some John Byrne's Superman after a long time. Knew I found it boring initially, but I really forgot how bad it is. Why does it help in such regard? Nostalgia? Yeah, a lot of this stuff. See, here's the thing, and I deal with this a lot. A lot of comic runs, not just Superman, but like if there's like a run that's people try and like say, oh, this is the best run ever, you have to like this run, like the culty Superman fan base. Yeah, they are 100% gonna do it for nostalgia purposes, or it's just like to fit in. But I read it; it's nothing special. There, like any run, there's stuff to like about it, and stuff to very much not like about it. Just like he must not be named who's screwing over Wonder Woman. Cameron says, my first introduction to this ship, which is Green Lantern Star Sapphire, was Justice League Doom, and I always thought Carol was his jealous ex. Hal was a cheater. It wasn't until I read the comics. Yeah, it's that's the thing. Hal has this reputation as a womanizer. It didn't help that when Grant wrote the Green Lantern book after like Venditti, they basically said that Hal is like Captain Kirk. And I'm like,
really?
yeah, I'm like, no. He tried to say that Hal was pansexual.
Oh, I remember that.
And I'm like, no, he's not. No, he's not. Trust me. He only, again, when you get down to it, it always goes down to Carol for the most part. It's like, yeah, they may have like dabbled with other relationships in the past, but that was before, because it was really the Jeff Johns run that really established they are true love. That's it. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way it works. But Graviton says, what are your guys' favorite comic book run of all time? Superman, Wonder Woman?
Yeah, Superman and Wonder Woman.
Up
Well,
until
it's
Tomasi
not
takes over the book.
right.
Oh,
It's
wait.
not
I said his name. Oh, no.
a
Oh, no.
Why did you say that name?
Yeah, go ahead.
it's not it's not a run, but as well, George Perez, of course, and I would say Spirit of Truth and League of One, because even though those aren't runs, it's still the fact that those stories really stand out for Wonder Woman, though.
Yep. League of One. That was a birthday present for me. It's right here.
Yes,
I
and
love
you're
it.
so lucky to have it.
I know, me too. So, but yeah, so with this, yeah, it definitely works. And yeah, because Hal does kind of struggle with like self-acceptance, particularly after the whole Parallax thing, because for those of you that don't know what happened, so Hal, after the destruction of Coast City by Mongol during the Death of Superman arc, so the Death of Superman screwed over multiple characters. He became Parallax and took out the rest of the Green Lantern Corps, except for like Kyle, because this is where Kyle Rayner became a Green Lantern, or like became the sole Green Lantern. So after that, and when he came back, he was constantly dealing with like guilt, and it didn't help that like a lot of the Green Lanterns did not trust him because of what happened with Parallax. It wasn't until really Sinestro Corps War where he really like earned back a lot of the trust, particularly this group called the Lost Lanterns. Because when Hal went to Oa to take out the Guardians when he was Parallax, he took out this elite group of lanterns and just left them in space. It turns out Cyborg Superman kidnapped them and was experimenting on them, but he saved them. And then it went from, okay, Jordan, we'll tolerate you, but stay away from us, to when he helped them like rescue a fallen comrade. They eventually go, okay, you stood with us when we needed you most. We're coming to support you. And that's kind of when he started to like really like get his groove back, for lack of a better term. Actually, here's the interesting thing. During the Sinestro Corps War, he told his brother to like evacuate the city. The brother said, no, we're all going to stand with you. And then Hal goes, yeah, but you don't understand. And then Kyle interrupts him and goes, Hal, look outside. Everyone in Coast City is shining a green light out of their like window to show that we're standing with Green Lantern. And they actually make a point of saying that, and this was like one of the best parts of the book, that when all these other cities globally were evacuated, not one civilian left Coast City because they were that confident in their superhero. And then what they said is Coast City used to be known as Ghost City because after it was blown up, no one was going to go there again because they're afraid they're going to get blown up. So it went from being called Ghost City to Coast City, the city without fear.
That is a very good story. Much better. It's basically, making um, lemonade out of lemons with the death of Superman story. Because, that story is very shallow. But it seems that, and like you said, a lot of characters were screwed over, especially with the whole Superman teaming up with basically C-listers to who can punch the hardest, who's the strongest to fight Doomsday. And even in the animated movie, where it's very illogical that you have the big heavy hitters even in the in that movie, but Diana, if her sword can shatter an atom, can split an
There's
atom.
no way a Doomsday's fist is going to stop it.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with that freaking movie. Brit, you are bringing up an excellent point. That Justice League lineup should have been the one fighting Doomsday in the comic. The reason why it gets down to Superman has to fight him is because it was just like Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Fire, Ice, Vibe. It was the lame Justice League, ironically, that James Gunn is trying to do. So I'm like, what are you guys doing? By the way, Cameron brings up a good point. Do you guys like this relationship when Carol is a villain, or do you think it takes away? Yeah, because Carol used to be a villain of Hal's, but I'm like, I prefer it where they're friends and that turn into lovers. I hate the enemies to lovers trope because then it opens up the door to Diana being with Veronica Cale or Cheetah and stuff. And I'm like, no, stop.
Right. The only time that works is with Selena, and Selena wasn't even she very gray area within being a villain.
Yeah, and by the way, your microphone's a little muffled.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
A little. It's still a little muffled and low.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties.
Yes, folks. Yes, folks. And then we'll move on to Batman Catwoman because that actually works here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we're good. All right.
Okay.
So Batman Catwoman. I love that panel of Coast City, how impactful other heroes are to the city. Yeah, it really does. And I really, really love that. And Britt, again, you have to read that run. I think you particularly would love it.
I will.
So Batman and Catwoman. Real quick. So what's kind of cool. So yeah, I traded in all of my Tom King Batman stuff, including his BatCat, because I found this book that I've been looking for a while. So what this is a collection of like all the stories like of Batman Catwoman, like when they first met. It has some of the issues of King's Batman because you can't ignore that if you're doing a BatCat thing, but mostly it's like a lot of the past stuff. Even has some Joelle Jones Catwoman in this. So I figured I'm trading up for this because I don't get a story about a really demented story written by he must not be named. But by Graviton says, Wonder Bat fans look away now. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But so again, Barry, this is the idea. So when I was reading this to prep for the show, Britt, I was legit like, this is so something Selena would do.
Yes, it's fun. She wants Bruce to basically, let loose.
Mm-hmm.
And their thing is rooftops, and I'm not gonna lie, I did, with the whole talk about gaming and stuff, with Batman having a new video game from Rocksteady, that pretty much inspired this.
Mm-hmm.
Basically,
there you go.
Bruce going on little side quests, kind of like the side quest of finding the Riddler's question things.
Trophy, only infinitely less annoying.
Yeah, that is basically that. Is basically finding Selena clues everywhere around Gotham, and just making it fun for
So,
Bruce.
speaking of that, in Arkham City, you can switch between Bruce and Selena. You know how you do that? This is hilarious. You're gonna love this. There's a random grouping of cats on like select rooftops that you just approach and then you switch. So I'm like, how did the cats get up here?
Well, cats,
They
they
will
do
find a
like,
way.
they will.
To quote Jurassic Park, nature finds a way.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I read this and I'm like, they would so do this. It's like Bruce wakes up. Here's how I would imagine this. So Bruce is like in the Batcave. He sees a note from Selena and says essentially, we're gonna play a little game for Valentine's Day. So and he basically, it's basically a scavenger hunt. And each clue reveals her, gives a piece of her location. And it's like
Yes.
when he finally shows up, it's at the rooftop where they first met.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, and she it also shows how Selena knows Bruce so well.
Mm-hmm.
And the clues that she presents him with, not only clues to find her, but the locations are significant for them, and her wording, it might be something that really just shows that, again, she knows Bruce.
Yeah. You can even have it where like Bruce actually asks her, okay, so what's the whole purpose of all this? And he goes, and Selena goes, you spend so much time fighting as Batman. You've never really had fun as Batman.
Yeah, and I mean, Bruce doesn't have fun as Batman. Not
Mm-mm.
really. Not only if he is chasing Selena. That's the
Yeah,
only time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just love that because that's the thing. Because with every relationship, you can have a fun. Because here's the thing: I'm not saying Batman should not be in a relationship. I'm saying he should be with the right person. Because with Selena is his Wonder Woman. Because it's like, because here's the one of the reasons why like Superman works with Wonder Woman is because like they understand each other and they're similar-ish characters. Same thing with Batman, Catwoman, and like the same way Superman and Wonder Woman complement each other, Batman and Catwoman complement her. And you could say, it's kind of funny. It's like this is another relationship where the woman helps the man come out of his shell.
Exactly. And the fact that Bruce and Selena are two sides of the same coin
Yeah,
within Gotham.
yeah,
And
exactly.
and and yeah, it is very similar to Mera and Arthur, Diana and Clark, and even Carol, Hal and Carol, that these women, yeah, they do help the men be better. But it's not being like coddling them or being like mother figures or something like that. It's just more so of, you know, basically it's, just as a partner, and having that equality, that you are supposed to have within a relationship.
Yeah. Speak of equality, Black Panther and Storm. So I need to read you this. I want to get your live reaction to this. So I picked up a Black Panther comic, my first ever, because of this episode we did, Brit. So I want to give you credit for that. But
Oh, thank you.
there's this terrific moment in this, and I got the one that deals with Black Panther and Storm for obvious reasons. So I'm gonna read you a passage from this because this is something that you will adore. So Storm and T'Challa are in like a hotel room,
Mhm.
and they're talking about some stuff he didn't like tell her or something like that. So Storm goes, "Why could you just tell me?" And then T'Challa goes, I was not sure, and I am king. A king has to be sure, Aurora. He has to know." And then Storm goes, "Not with me, not here. Let the world call us what they must, goddess, king, whatever. But between you and I, there can be no titles." And then we've done that before and it ruined us. And then T'Challa says, if there are no titles, what are we to each other? And then Storm goes, isn't it obvious, my love? I am forever yours and you are mine.
Aw,
Yep.
I like that.
I wanted your live reaction to that.
That is very sweet. And right, these couples that we have, basically gone through is a constant of them. It's not about labels. It's not about putting each other on a pedestal in that sense or the expectations. It's just being themselves and their best selves, their whole selves and honest selves. And, you know, and, and that is pretty much what a relationship is supposed to display. Um, Even in fiction, you can do the whole fairy tale thing or whatever and exaggerate some things, but there has to be a little bit of realism within relationships. And like I said, the pairings that we have talked about, they have that.
Yeah. So tell us about Storm of the Heart. Again,
Okay,
great title.
thank you. So we know that within Marvel and how they force their divorce and breakups and stuff like that. And it always has something to do in a political sense of whether it is Wakanda or it's, duties within the X-Men and stuff like that. And X-Men versus Avengers, you know. So that's basically again what we are exploring within this story. They feel like they want to be together but it's still that strain of their duties. And it it the root of it is within Wakanda and how um T'Challa has to choose, his duty as king, or will he let uh, or could he choose his love for Aurora and um, his can he or can they both, bridge together that political divide? And while trying to fight the political divide, you also have an impending natural disaster going about. And that is something, of course, Storm has to deal with. So yeah, it's a lot going on naturally, metaphorically, and politically within this story.
I love it. It sounds like a dope political thriller. By the way, the muffled sound is back.
Oh, geez. Technical difficulties as always.
Yeah. It's like it's being run by DC marketing.
Funny, funny. Okay, how about now?
Now it's back. Yeah, I mean, now we're good. All right.
Okay.
Gods Among Us, Hyperion, and Power Princess.
Okay, so this is basically the opposite, or it can be similar to Clark and Diana, where they they are known, within their world as Hyperion and Power Princess. But how about they just have a regular date, as normal people? And so regular clothes, not so much as playing on the secret identity, but definitely playing on the secret identity type thing. And it's just that simple. And
Like they could kind of dabble in the secret identity because Hyperion's one is Mark Milton. He's an American history professor, and I don't think Zarda has one, but we can like kind of do a play off of the Justice League comics where she adopts the secret identity.
yeah. So it's basically, like I said, a play on the secret identity
Mm-hmm.
type thing,
That kind of
just
works.
an ordinary, like we've done things so grand. Let's just do something simple. And I'm going to use the term, but it's not that term of how, some detractors use it as in wanting them to be grounded.
Hmm.
No, it's not in that sense. It's more so just being within just a normal date. It doesn't have to be anything grand, just something simple.
Yeah, and you could have it. Oh, I got it. They go to see a movie called Justice League.
Ha.
Yeah, or it's like what'd be funny is that they go on a date and they see like an advertisement for the upcoming Power Princess movie, and Zarda looks at the actress and goes, "She looks nothing like me."
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's like you can even have like Hyperion is like she sees Hyperion did like a commercial for like Old Spice or something like that, and she goes, "You're lucky."
Oh my God. You should write this down because that is a good idea.
That would be hilarious. But yeah, next one is Scott Summers and Emma Frost. Psychic tension.
Okay, so with this, I had to really think and go back on what we talked about, and it's basically them having some fun in the mind.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about by having some fun with the mind.
Yeah, that's basically what this is. I can't go no further because of,
You can have it.
but
They're in separate rooms. Like Scott is delivering a briefing to the X-Men, and it's like, or maybe, hey, what's up? What's up, Jid? He came in live. I'll only see you guys to break my yes, I should. But you could have it where like Scott's in another room and Emma's teaching a class, and it's like, but in their minds they're doing that.
yeah,
That would be so hilarious. Oh my gosh, that's so something they would do.
I know that is the only thing that really kind of like, yeah, they would totally do that.
Yeah, exactly. That actually works really well. And yeah, we could kind of see that like at the end of it, she comes back to her room and he basically set up a romantic candlelight dinner, and he goes, "Yeah, we romance with our powers, but I think someone like you deserves a little bit deserves a little like tender loving care." So she sits down at the table. Maybe he rubs her shoulders a little bit. He finds her favorite wine on the table, or her favorite flowers, kind of showing that like he pays attention to her closer than she ever thought he did. And it's like her first relationship where someone actually pays attention to more than just her body.
Yes. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, there you go. It's and you can even have it where Emma says, he's like, it's to your point on there. She says, I never got the point of Valentine's Day, and because it always seemed to me like a trivialization of like romance and stuff. But you're always exposing me to new experiences, darling, because she calls everyone darling, especially him. So I guess I have to give you credit.
Yeah, it's like Scott, I think, opens up Emma from what I saw,
Yeah, he
and
does.
he kind of like he softens her a little bit,
Because
or gives her.
do you know what Emma was before she was an X-Men?
No.
She was straight up a villain.
Oh, she was. Oh,
Like, remember? Okay, did you ever see the X-Men, the original '90s X-Men cartoon?
yeah, yeah.
They adapted the Phoenix Saga, and she was the one in white.
Right. I thought that maybe it is because, with going with the modern version, that
Mm-hmm.
she was kind of like Selena, very in the gray area type thing. So
Yeah,
I
she
just thought
is.
that's
She
how
is.
her character has been, since her inception, basically.
Yeah. Ignore X-Men First Class because that was a butcherization of Emma Frost. Like that was Emma Frost in name only. But in Grant Morrison's new X-Men, she leaves the Hellfire Club and joins the X-Men, and eventually serves as the headmaster of the school because Charles disappears. And then she and Scott start the whole relationship. And yeah, it doesn't start on the best of terms with the whole psychic affair thing. And I'm like, yeah, when people bring that up, I'm like, yeah, I get that. But then again, it's like, how many times has Jean kissed Wolverine? So I'm like,
Right.
neither party is fine here. So that's why that doesn't necessarily bother me as much. Then you get to like she and Scott's get into a relationship, and like Scott is that, and it's kind of funny. Okay, this is the one time I'm gonna give credit to he must not be named, but he ruined a Justice League movie. In his run, Scott told Emma, "I love you," and it was like the first man to ever say "I love you" to her.
Aw,
And she was like,
that's sweet.
"Can I actually like love him too and stuff?" And she goes this whole journey. Eventually, she does say "I love you too." They actually have this cool thing that they do. So, as a psychic, she can like project her mind globally. So Scott obviously has X-Men teams operating throughout the world. So he needs to communicate with them. So what Emma does is she puts her hands on his head and amplifies his thoughts. So he's psychic. So through her, he psychically communicates with the X-Men.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, it's
See,
one of those things where I'm like, see, that's something you could really play with.
yeah, and they are basically helping each other, like
Yeah,
working
exactly.
as a team.
Oh, and so they did this event called Inhumans versus X-Men. All right. So there's this group of people called the Inhumans, and they're basically the X-Men. But before Marvel when Marvel sold the rights to the X-Men, they had this group called the Inhumans, and they were trying to like emphasize them over the X-Men. It didn't work, obviously. But Inhumans are like Black Bolt and Medusa. Black Bolt's the dude that can't speak because a whisper is going to be like a destructive bomb, practically. So they get their powers through a process called Terrigenesis, because there's a certain gene that activates when you're surrounded by the Terrigen mist, and you get put in a cocoon, and then you break out and you have superpowers or like deformities. But they found out it was toxic to mutants. So Scott is exposed to that and dies. He comes back, obviously. This is comics. Emma literally goes to war with the Inhumans over this. It's like, oh, you do not want to piss off Emma Frost.
Oh wow! Now I have to read this.
It's really good stuff. And they did this one other story where Jean comes back to life. It's one of the 8 times she has come back to life. But it's like, and
Shade.
yeah, around the same time, Scott and Emma are sleeping together, and it's like he has this moment where like Jean pops into his mind, and like you can tell that they both kind of have that thing. It's like, will he ever? Emma kind of has that thing where like, will he ever truly just love me and not like her? And they have this whole experience because Emma, to a degree, feels like the rebound girl at one point, but then he kind of overcomes. He's like, no, it is you. I only want you. And they did this great story, and I brought up again where I brought up in this episode when we did this, where because she can turn to diamonds, she's the only one who has seen what his eyes really look like because the optic beams don't affect her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like when writers make like the second, love interest feels like a rebound, because in reality, different people have different relationships.
Yeah.
So to prop up the primary love interest, they do that, and we see that all the time with Clark and Diana. But when they have basically with Scott and Emma, you've named a lot of benefits that Scott and Emma have, given each other within their relationship. So I don't think that it's anything of a rebound. It's just always, you know, just someone changing a relationship or finding a new love. I just don't think that you can um just belittle a relationship,
Oh,
just because
trust
it
me,
wasn't the
Brit.
first.
Marvel belittled this one. Do you know what they did to Emma?
I'm afraid to know.
They injustice Wonder Womaned her.
Of course, of
They
course.
made it so, okay, so Scott was kind of going through this villain arc, and they basically implied that it's because Emma was slowly corrupting him.
Yeah, that's the thing that I don't like.
Basically, Britt, when I said that this is the X-Men SuperWonder, I meant in every sense of the word. Literally, they do the same crap that they did with that DC does with SuperWonder with this couple right here.
It's totally unnecessary. I mean, each relationship you can explore, and each relationship brings, a different perspective, something to benefit the characters. Again, you don't have to belittle, either one. You and even if you do have the primary love interest, I mean, that's pretty much all you have to fall back on as a default. You can do so much with that, but that it's nostalgic and it really limits the characters. So yeah, saying that a second love interest is a
Evil.
rebound or evil, it's unnecessary.
Because here's the thing. Jean Grey is the lowest of this relationship. I don't mean that in a bad way. All I mean by that is that she is like the first love interest, and there's a certain like you do get nostalgia fans in terms of that, but they're nowhere near as rabid as the lowest fans. 100. I don't want to paint them badly. I'm just saying it's a similar situation, only it's much less toxic. But it's like, yeah, I'm like, just don't crap on it. That's all I ask. Is that too much to ask for? With nostalgic writers, yes, it is too much to ask for.
Honestly, I don't think I mean, there are some, especially with anime and stuff like that, but honestly, there's as far as toxic fans, no one is topping Lois fans for me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. By the way, so there's this great moment for Scott and Emma. So the lowest lane of Marvel in terms of my utter hatred is Namor the Submariner. Now, I acknowledge that he was like one of the first Marvel characters. I acknowledge his history, but the problem is in modern times they turned him into like the dude that tries to steal other man's women. Like he legit keeps trying to take Sue Storm and Emma from their guys. And what's kind of funny is, yes, thank you, Cameron. Boo Namor, I know. So it's like he kissed her once when she was not consenting to it because Namor thinks okay, here's the best way to say this, Britt, and you'll get immediately what I'm saying. Namor is like the guy that thinks he's God's gift to women.
Oh, yeah.
But there was this great moment. So they're fighting a Celestial, and Emma's in diamond form, and her arm gets like shattered off. Obviously, it gets reattached later, but so she can't turn out of diamond form without like bleeding out. But she can't use her mind powers unless she is in human form. So she tells Namor, hold my arm, and he goes, at last. And then she goes, not romantically, you idiot. I mean like a tourniquet. And
Wow.
it's again, that's why I really dislike Namor in terms of like at least the way he's been written modern times, because I'm just like, dude, there is a bro code, Brit, and trying to take trying to take a buddy's girl is like number one on it. You do not do that. That is a dick move. You do not do that at all.
Right. And I mean,
Kirby, what did I come back to? We're talking about Namor the Submariner.
Um, and I see those Neymar jokes all the time on Twitter, and I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yeah. He goes
But
after married women all the time.
I mean, even with seeing the with Sue,
Hmm.
um, you know,
Wait, I
when
love
the
Kirby. Oh, him. Yeah.
when the trailer came out, and uh,
Oh, yeah, for
I
Black
don't
Panther 2.
know for
Oh,
Fantastic
yeah,
Four.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but because it was going around, and I think it's been confirmed about uh, uh, Franklin.
Hmm.
So you know, with seeing, oh, they have Sue now. They are going to have Namor from Black Panther 2 come to the be in the Fantastic Four movie. And it's like, first of all, set in the 60s,
Hmm.
and obviously it's very clear the way Sue walks and everything that she is pregnant.
Hmm.
So it's like, you know, why are fans jumping on that and making jokes about that? But yeah, it I can see why you have this irritation for the character.
Yeah.
Very much
And
so.
to be clear, the character is not nowhere near as irredeemable as Lois. It's more of like it depends on who's writing him because he could be a badass, but it's like they always have to put that in. And I'm like, literally just stop. So here's a good Namor moment. So, Britt, do you know what the Marvel Illuminati is?
I do.
Yeah. So in that, so they launched the Hulk into space because he's like destructive and stuff. So Namor goes, "Are you guys stupid? When he comes back, and he will come back, you really want to risk the Hulk's wrath?"
That was the kind of the smartest thing said.
Yeah, he's like and so what happened in that storyline? I'll tell us because this is like a great story. Hulk lands on a planet called Sakaar. Basically, what Thor Ragnarok did to it is again another insult to this comic because this is an epic story. Thor basically lives the movie Gladiator. And
Oh,
basically, Brit, the Krypton story you and I are working on. But
oh,
so he fights all the way to the top and rules the planet. But the ship he was on, the Illuminati had supposedly set the engines to self-destruct, so he wouldn't be able to like repair it as Bruce Banner and get back. So it blows up, kills like thousands of people on the planet and Hulk's wife and son. So
wow.
Hulk builds a ship, grabs a fleet, shows up in New York, and goes, "Listen, everyone in New York, get out of the city, except for the superheroes. I'm letting the civilians get out because I am so angry. I just want to smash something, but I don't want to kill people. Just smash them." So he goes to fight Black Bolt. Black Bolt hits him with his voice. Hulk has this fantastic moment. He goes, "I didn't come to hear you whisper. I came to hear you scream." And then Black Bolt's defeated by the Hulk. Iron Man shows up in a Hulk buster suit but gets defeated. He basically defeats all the superheroes and then makes them fight each other in a gladiatorial pit.
Wow.
And then
That
he gets so angry that his very footsteps that are shockwaves that are felt on the other side of the planet. And he says, "Tony, you have to kill me, or I will destroy. I will break the world." It's where he becomes Worldbreaker Hulk. And then Tony uses the space laser to knock him out and revert him back to Bruce Banner.
hmm.
And then it was revealed that Hulk's son survived the nuke on the planet Sakaar, and then he came back as Scar.
Oh, they introduced him in
Yeah, She-Hulk, but they give him a man bun, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm doing this. This is what Scar is supposed to look like. Hang on. I'm going to do this because I feel like you need to see this, Britt. for culture, for educational purposes. All right, Scar, son of Hulk. This is the biggest this is one of the many reasons why I loathe that She-Hulk show. I'm gonna get a good let me get a good image of Scar, one that I think will be the proper like representation of. Yep, this is it. All right, this is Scar, son of Hulk. That's who it's supposed to be.
Oh, that's a big difference.
Yeah, he doesn't have a man bun or anything like that. No, it is actually badass son of Hulk.
Wow, that is a big difference from kind of like the little like fluff of something that they introduced.
Well, that show itself was like horrible because it's like they have like She-Hulk tell the Hulk that because she gets catcalled, she handles stress infinitely better than Hulk does. Bear in mind, Hulk is the guy that was hunted by the federal government with tanks, and just 2 movies ago, half of his friends were snapped out of existence. I'm pretty sure the Hulk handles stress better than you do. Just gonna say that right there. And
Yeah,
they made him Smart Hulk, where it's essentially the Hulk in like a Hulk in a hoodie doing science stuff. And I just watched the 2008 Hulk movie where he's like smashing stuff. Like there's a scene in that where he's fighting Abomination. He breaks the cop car in half and uses the halves as boxing gloves. And I'm like, can we get back to that Hulk?
yeah, I think the more modern takes of things is very it's more whacked than, you would think that the early 2000s or so would be.
Yeah, let me put it this way. She-Hulk is to Hulk and She-Hulk, honestly, what Wonder Woman 1984 is to Wonder Woman.
Well, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
That's what I'm going to tell you that right there. So then our next couple is Hawkman and Hawkwoman.
Okay, so this one, of course, they are um, reincarnated lovers. They do not have a love triangle or square with Jon Stewart or
Thank
Vixen
you.
or whoever else. They, I saw a tweet that said also that their wedding anniversary is on Valentine's Day too.
Hey.
So that pretty much makes it even more special for them. And it's basically them traveling back in time to basically when they first fell in love and just going there for it's an artifact, but it could be like the first ring that Carter first gave Shayera or something like that, something significant to them, as their first date or like I said, a gift for their wedding or something like that. But yeah, it's just the story of them going back in time and looking at their life, or lives within within time.
What you could also do is when the artifacts they find is like a statue or something like that he gave her in a previous life.
Yeah, it could be something like that. It's just something that really is, yeah, like he
Ooh,
was
and seeing the artifact awakens her
memory.
memories of her past life, like in Brightest Day, like I brought up last week or the
Right,
week before that.
right. It can be something like that, especially if they were, all these different lives that they've lived. They've been, royalty before. Um, yeah, they've been like galaxy cops
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But at the same time, each role that they play within these different, lives, they it still meant something. And so it has to be something, within those lives that they um have that's pretty much it's a physical um uh let me see, physical,
Reminder.
yeah, thank you, reminder of it.
What you could even do is have it so they kiss and they hug, but their wings around each other.
You see, Jared, that's why I told you you should definitely try.
DC, hire me because I'll
Yeah,
write the crap out of these characters.
yeah, all of these
So,
couples.
speaking of crap, oh my god. So, Brit, you could not have picked a more apt thing for this. Wonder Woman's January 6th.
You know that okay, like I said earlier, Wonder Woman and Superman are political characters. Like their inception. It is what it is. However, in modern day, the way Clark and Diana is written is so tone deaf, and it's very backwards, to what they're supposed to represent. With Diana, she doesn't represent feminism as she should. She doesn't, we don't see her as the ambassador. She's very shallow within being the warrior, or she's in the background, you know. She feels very isolated from the rest of DC within her own book. And also, the Trinity is very shallow concept, and it's even more so. It's just the world's finest, and Diana is an afterthought, or not even that.
She's just the girl. Now,
Right.
here's what I wanted to bring up earlier. So, through the text, you find out. So, as you guys know, Giganta and Wonder Woman fought in like issue, I think it was like 4 or something like that of this run in the National Mall, and like the Washington Monument was destroyed. So it was rebuilt by the Justice League, and I'm like, okay. But here's where I start to get like, it's rebuilt brick by brick, and they said day by day. And I'm like, if the Justice League is rebuilding this, you have Superman, the Flash, Green Lanterns. This should have been done in like an hour.
Right. I think that is so, like, first of all, Superman having a tantrum because of a monument that was built by slave labor. I don't think he should care. It's not. It's just something that he should not care for like that. Not in the sense of putting that before the lives that have been lost with the Amazons. And like in Birds of Prey, it's said that the Amazons are being sold off, trafficked for to become enslaved by rich people. So it's kind of like, what is going on within DC, the creative side, within the storylines or whatever, that first of all, Diana is not showing any type of emotions with her sisters being trafficked or sold off. And second, the entire of the Justice League is not, making it a priority to help. And yeah, Superman putting a monument that, again, slave labor, and has very controversial problems. That is my problem with DC and just history, period, is that you're glorifying American history, and you are trying to gloss over.
There are parts of American history to glorify. It's just the problem with this is like, ignoring the slave labor part of this, I'm like, logistically, why is it taking days?
Days.
Like, I don't mean to get hung up on this, but I'm like,
no, it is.
You could say to show reverence, but still, it's like, and I get it's a monument to America, but it's like, what? To Brit's point, again, unless you're trying to push the whole rah America, i.e., like Byrne or he must not be named but ruin the SuperWonder book, why do this?
Right. And we are back at Superman. Okay, first of all, you have Superman where in issue 7, he acknowledges that what's going on is wrong.
And he doesn't
He
do anything.
he doesn't do anything.
Here's the thing. Didn't Wonder... Here's why, to that point, Brit, and I literally... Here's another critique you just gave me. Remember when the Wonder Girls wanted to intervene, but Diana said no, and they still forced their way into it?
Right.
Why couldn't Clark do that?
Exactly. If you are going to have him within the book, you might as well make him be useful. And
Yeah.
the fact that the turning point of Diana actually basically, no, she's not really doing nothing because it has taken 18 issues for her to actually, no, I take that back because she's not doing anything. She's, basically a parody of, you know, it, it's a very unserious storyline.
She honestly, here's the thing. King said he was inspired by Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. No, this is a parody of Gadot's Wonder Woman. Because Gadot's Wonder Woman would have bursted through the Sovereign's front door and lopped his head off. Problem solved. You're done. Ask Steppenwolf how that turned out.
Right. And the fact that her emotional state or whatever she wants to do emotionally hinges off of the fact that she, cared for Steve instead of her sisters who are again being trafficked and murdered in prison. Yeah, that is awful. And then King has this issue with his religious type symbolism too.
Oh yeah, the Eve thing.
Diana biting the apple is very on the nose for her basically going to, sin or do something immoral.
Plus,
and I just
isn't she still a fugitive? Why is she just walking?
Yeah, and taking a whole page for her to walk is just so...
That's so Tom King, though, because, again, he's in a lot of King books, he tries to be Alan Moore because of the 9-panel grid pattern from Watchmen. So he always tries to, like, imitate that in some way, but it just gets very, like, clunky.
It's unnecessary. Like,
yeah, exactly.
This story, honestly, it could have been 5 issues and an annual, but you taking 18 issues and basically a nothing burger, there's no true significance, even with Trinity.
Yeah.
You wanted that to be something big, first of all, for her to be all of a sudden in love with Steve, him to die, and then her to create this Chucky baby, Cabbage Patch baby. But, no one cares for the Cabbage Patch.
I love what you call it, a Chucky baby.
Because she is, she looked like Chucky, and she looked like a Cabbage Patch too. But
oh god,
it's like the way he forced this storyline and the plots and everything like that, it just wasn't organic, and it wasn't something that was actually built to. Steve's death, we don't care for him. And another thing, within the political climate of the real world and just comics period,
oh boy,
no one cares for Steve being in the military.
Also, I thought you were gonna mention the fact that Wonder Woman, that in light of the political environment, why is Wonder Woman storming the White House?
Well, that was coming up next.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Steve, he did not help Diana with, anything. That part of Steve giving her information about the Sovereign was very much an afterthought, I believe, to make it seem like he was like this plot twist of a hero, and he died a heroic death. But that was only because you wanted Diana to basically become a war widow and a trade wife, just again very much pulled out his backside instead of it happening organically, even though we wouldn't want Diana to be that in the first place. And then, yeah, for her to storm the White House, it's just so
I'm like, bro,
not,
do you
it's,
know what I'm
it's,
going back to, Brit? That one page that he previewed where it's one woman walk away from an explosion, and I'm like, I swear,
her,
if you have her blow up a part of the White House, I am going to have a conniption.
it's very much on the nose in the most tone deaf kind of way, in the most very disrespectful way for people who we want equality, we want respect. And as women, as POC, as just things like that. And again, the way the political climate is, you have to voice these kind of things in a very respectful yet serious manner. And I just feel like this is very much playing in the face of a very serious topic of what's going on in the real world. And for you to use Wonder Woman, it feels like first King wants to glorify America and and make it seem like it's the rah-rah thing. But then on the other side, he wants to address his own inner PTSD of being uh, in the military, and how he feels about America, like his Jenny Sparks,
Oh God, that
book,
cringe book about Superman
and
supposedly being able to cure COVID.
right,
I can't
and
punch a virus.
yeah, that
The other thing, Britt, I just
thousands.
realized what he could have us do. What if she goes to blow up the White House, but Superman stops her?
And I would still hate that because
Yeah, no, because it's like again, he's choosing he's choosing his country, which by the way, he gave up his citizenship in his story. I may not have liked that, but still, it's the point that that require King to actually read these books, which he clearly doesn't. The very fact that James Gunn's wife called Tom King
Tom
an
King,
encyclopedia of DC Comics, I'm like, oh no.
right. And again, if Clark goes against Diana at any point of this, first of all, it shows that this isn't New 52 Superman, no matter how they want to say that he merged. Because if you say this is New 52 in some way, didn't the government like torture him?
Well,
Like,
Britt, didn't they undo that as well when Superman showed up in the Sideways book as the jeans and t-shirt Clark?
that's true. So we are stuck still with obviously post crisis where he is very much a government stooge. So if he does go against Diana by, again, these monuments is something that's very, it's it's a very complex like topic to talk about, because you have where these monuments, and everything that has happened and what we fight for, diversity, and like I said, the slave labor and stuff like that. And again, for King to say that the Justice League did this brick by brick and it took days, that is very much a slap in the face to the people who actually did, built that in reality, and what they went through and the torture and everything like that.
Exactly,
So
Brit. It's like it's like during World War II, they did a comic called "If Superman actually fought in World War II," and they said the reason why they never had Superman fighting on the front lines against like the Nazis or like the Japanese army is because Superman doesn't exist in real life and it'd be seen as disrespectful to the troops. And this reminds me of the same situation here.
yeah, you are pretty much a slap in the face to, everyone who has, like I said, have been tortured, have been
So what you're
enslaved,
telling me is that we're Chris Rock and Tom King is Will Smith.
funny. That is
I had to. You said slap in the face, and I was like, oh, I'm taking this.
that is hilarious. But yeah, the way um and again, Diana's whole whatever push she has to do something, it wasn't for her sisters. It's not for her sisters. It is for Steve. And and also the way he jumps to her being now in costume and stuff like that when she was just with Trinity, it's kind of like, oh,
With,
so
and with her new god, Steve Trevor. I know, I'm an asshole. I try. I try.
honestly, Trinity and Steve need to go in the dark realm or something like that.
They need to go in the Forgotten Realm. Barry Cameron says, I would not be surprised, as Twitter and nostalgic writers like to say, Superman was born and raised in America, therefore he is American and is conservative. Well, here's the thing. He was born and raised in Kansas. So they have a point there. It's just, again, Superman gave up his American citizenship, and that is still canon.
Well, they pick and choose what they want to be canon.
Then again, yeah, it could be like King is ignoring that because he likes all the superheroes to be American. And here's the thing, even beyond that, Brit, because as we Wonder Woman is an American invention, an American icon, global icon, but just go with it. It looks bad for the American icon to be invading the seat of American power, particularly when we just had a new administration sworn in.
What? Yeah, I mean, the way the world is again, of how it's very divided, and obviously, who's been sworn in, half the world isn't in agreement of it and stuff like that. And
yeah,
again,
but I'm just saying from like this way, from a perspective of just like it looks bad for like I would be the same. I would be saying the same thing if Kamala won, because I'd be like, this doesn't look good, bro.
Right.
This is the wrong time to be doing this.
It's just the way, again, that King is handling it. It'll be different again if he had that story of, first of all, where is it Emily or Amelia?
Emily. Apparently, she's supposed to show up in one of these.
Okay, so it's her, and then you have her and her storyline of her she's supposed to be pregnant, and obviously whatever
But
happened.
that's a red herring, Britt.
That's a big picture of sugar honey iced tea.
Oh, by the way, according to Enzo, so obviously that Marvel redid the Ultimate line, right?
They did.
Yeah, so the Ultimate Avengers are just called the Ultimates. The Ultimates invaded the White House to save one of their own that was being held there. That's different.
That is definitely different.
It'd be one thing if like Hippolyta was being held there, or like an Amazon the Amazons were being held in the White House. That'd be one thing, but just to fight the villain.
Yeah, and the fact that pretty much the sovereign. He the way King wrote it was basically sovereign purposely went to the White House to trap Diana or something, or to make her seem like she's doing something wrong. But at the same time, King doesn't make it any better because the fact that he had her bite or eat an apple
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. Um, and then you have her again, her motivations are very much have drastically shifted to being just about Steve. Like again, she has not expressed any type of emotional upheaval for her sisters, and it is more so the fact that Birds of Prey is saying that the Amazons are being trafficked. Like, so they aren't on the island. They aren't. So you know what is actually going on with the Amazons, and why isn't this a bigger storyline? Why are they just used as a plot device? And um, it's it, it's very tone deaf, and especially again
Tom King
within
tone deaf?
but with the allegations of trafficking and everything within the Hollywood scene, for some of these celebrities, with even just
Neil
ordinary
Gaiman?
people, yeah, with ordinary people, women are being trafficked. So why is this storyline being done in such a shallow, disrespectful manner?
Because King is trying to be topical, but when he does topical, it leads to tone deaf. That's exactly what it is. He forgets how to do it. Again, this further supports again the theory, or like really not the theory, but the idea that like King has a bunch of story ideas on his computer that he just takes whatever character he is assigned to write and just shoves them in there.
Oh, he's already pretty much admitted to that, when the fact that he said that he just wanted a superhero to have a kid so the super sons can babysit. It didn't even matter who, it was just let someone have a kid. Um, and then you
He would do that
have
to Supergirl if he was writing Supergirl.
exactly. And then again, you have all of this American like propaganda propaganda stuff within the Wonder Woman book. Yes, she is an American made hero character,
But
but
she's not even from America.
she's not from America, and she represents more of, first of all, the mascara and and the Grecian culture. And second, she is supposed to be a global hero and character. So she does not, again, it's a lot of complexities within Diana's character, and what she represents. She doesn't represent just one country, and the
Mhm.
way Tom King has this, it's just so, again, tone deaf, and it really just goes back to Rebirth, and just making it seem like, and he had the Sovereign say this too, that Diana is only accepted because she was with Steve as this American military guy that he has propped up to be this American military hero. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, I'm pretty sure Steve has been like basically a war criminal. He has killed people, probably innocents. He has done things that should not be glorified. He did not help Diana with her sisters. He basically, within the second issue, he cursed at Diana and said that, yeah, you fought gods and stuff, but you can't go against the US military. You know, why would she?
I'm pretty sure if she can fight, if she has defeated gods, yeah, I'm pretty sure she can undo dudes with M16s.
Yeah. And then for Steve to not, he didn't stand with her. He went back to standing like a lapdog to Sarge Steele. So it's kind of like, how within that is she supposed to be in love with someone who indirectly caused her sisters to be murdered um, or be imprisoned? I just don't get that. So for Tom King to call Diana a contradiction because she
She's
is a
not. That's the
warrior
cop out.
and yeah, and being of peace, no, her contradiction is being with Steve, and especially in modern day.
Just yeah, her relationship with Steve is a walking, talking contradiction. But
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like again, and so Jared was petty recently, and for Valentine's Day, King posted a picture of Steve and Diana. So your boy had to jump in there. So what he said was, okay, so what the post was, all right. So it's of Steve and Diana kissing. So I said, didn't you once say? I literally commented this in his Instagram response. Didn't you once say that the run would be Wonder Woman focused and not and the problem with Wonder Woman runs is they focus too much on the villain, the love interest? What changed? Because this run has been basically a Steve, a character she hasn't dated in many years, who broke up with her because she didn't spend time with him. If you want to write a Steve Trevor book, then write a Steve Trevor book. But stop making the Wonder Woman book, revolve around Steve.
So what was his
He didn't
response?
respond. He didn't respond. He's a wuss.
Okay, so how many likes did he get from that post?
It doesn't say.
Really? Hold on, let me see if I can see it.
For me,
So
it doesn't say.
He turned off the likes.
Ha!
How?
Another person actually commented the hashtag and he said, I love Steve, but the fact that you make the comic like as if this is a Steve glorification comic, it can't be accepted. Don't make Diana as a side character in her own comics. Oh, yes, Diana is also still the daughter of Zeus, her canon origin. You also messed that up, Mr. King. It's intolerable as well. Oh, I know who this is. She's a friend of mine.
Oh, so that's good to have.
You had the Wonder Bat people saying, stop putting her with Steve.
And also, like I said, with going back to, so you can see his likes on just he probably hit them on the app, but you can see the likes on the web.
How's it look?
And oh, it's only 1,000, which
Mm-hmm.
is very low because, you know, most of his like BatCat or other couples will get like 3,000 or maybe even 10,000 likes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, for it to be a Valentine's post, yeah, no one is, like I said, no one cares for Steve like that. And the way it's written and the fact that most of the comments are basically saying stop. it don't be ignorant and don't be egotistical, which is very hard for King, but to have to have to have this sort of attitude that, you know, I guess he feels like he can do whatever he wants because, he did get an editor fired, you know, with Batman.
And he took credit for a story that wasn't for an idea that wasn't his.
Yeah, he plagiarized, Immortal Beloved. Even though we don't care for that story, it's still the fact that King has shown
Well,
himself.
not only that, Brit, he took credit for the Dark Side Is thing.
Yeah. Oh, so the post with Big Barda and Mr. Miracle got 4,000 likes.
Mm-hmm.
So So yeah, it's very telling of how, a lot of people are talking against King being on this book within just 18 issues. And with Batman, you had 85 issues plus the BatCat book. And even the BatCat book, it, you know, um, how that really ruined the perception of the BatCat relationship, of you turning, Bruce into a man child, a
Mm-hmm.
suicidal man child that
Yeah,
only
where he
cared.
says, "I want to commit suicide, but my suicide is by Batman." I'm like, "What the hell is this?"
Right, and he only cares basically for Selena, and traumatizing Damien into feeling like he is the cause of you know, Alfred's death. Um, and he also has this thing where every female character has to be in some way unlikable or very much characterized in the shallowest way of themselves. So you had Selena saying meow every so often.
Or like, remember in that arc where Booster Gold goes back in time and gives Bruce a life with his parents, and Selena is like in Arkham Asylum, she can only say meow, and then she kills the Waynes,
Yeah.
like
Or,
saying that like Batman is what makes her normal.
yeah. You have Diana being very stiff, and even with Steve, she's very stiff and like whatever type of love, whatever they are supposed to have, is very is is more so just telling the reader that you should like this, you should accept this, and using Diana as a mouthpiece, or even Sovereign as a mouthpiece, to say it's Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor. I don't care. Like, that isn't something that's, stand out, you know. And again, within the modern time, Steve is not a character to promote right now. Not within, again, the political climate of the world, of, well, America. No. And with Clark being a government stooge, a and in a sense of being conservative in the worst way possible, of like rah rah America, um very, like, he will I think that the way Tom King would write Clark, he would definitely go overboard of rejecting his Kryptonian heritage.
Imagine Byrne, but worse.
Yes.
It's like
And
Britt and I would end up going, our expectations were low, but holy F.
it's I mean, the expectations for anything of Tom King is basically in the abyss of hell. It is just down under. Um and yeah, it's just the way these characters are written now. These writers, they want is attention from social media, obviously. You want the Twitter likes or the Instagram likes, or, but what about the story, and what about the characters? That
Well, King doesn't care about the characters, as has always been demonstrated. All he cares about is his demented storylines being told.
yeah, and trying to like work out his PTSD problems within the characters. No.
Yeah, I'm like, stop it. I long said, so Britt, tell me what you think of this. The the Sovereign story would have been a better story for Renee Montoya, the Question.
Definitely would have been.
Because
If it
it's
would have been
more, because he writes better when it's like obscure characters and it's a mystery story.
right. But I mean, I think Montoya would probably when written under King.
Plus, with King, he can make her have PTSD and lead into her drinking problem.
I was just about to say that. Oh my God.
He will, trust me.
But
and by
he
the way,
would make
again, we are in sync, friend.
Yes, I was just about to say he would make her a drunk though. Like she would basically run around with a bottle in her hand. Be like,
She would
you
be like
know,
Valkyrie was in Thor Ragnarok, where we first see her and she drinks and then she falls over.
yeah, it'll be something like that. But it will be something so comical in the worst way than, and it wouldn't be taken serious. And I think that's the problem with King. He wants to be so poetic and profound and
He wants to be
um
Alan Moore.
basically, but it's so bad and it's not funny. Like it's funny in an unfunny way, you know?
It's
And
funny in a sad way.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. And yeah, I don't know why. Well, it's pretty much a popularity contest. And to see how awards, are given, and we can say that about the Oscars or anything like or something like that, but basically the Oscars for comics are the Eisners, and the fact that um King gets Eisners like for the bare minimum of stories,
Or like he keeps
like
or like his female stories keep getting nominated but then lose.
yeah, it's just it feels like okay, I know that there are better writers, better stories that deserve to be, nominated or honored. This popularity contest is just ruining comics because you are, first of all, you are making these characters just seem so unimportant. You are making these characters a parody of themselves. And, and it's just not something entertaining at all. It's getting very boring, and it's something that is very difficult to invest in, and you can't root for these characters. I'm not rooting for Diana as a character, because there's nothing to root for her, as a new mother, if that is supposed to be something, um, you know, significant for her character. We, as readers and fans of her, we didn't get that out of her creating Trinity, and to to um to force that storyline, that's something so important, you know, but you made it out to be her just making a baby basically for a guy that she wasn't even in a relationship with. It was
No.
just something to connect her with him, to make him important. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just something, motherhood is about a mother connecting with her child. And it
But
has,
remember, King has this vast comic knowledge.
yeah, whatever. And the fact that you are also another slap in the face to the Clay origin and what Hippolyta went through. You know, again, we've talked about this, that the Clay origin and Hippolyta and Diana's connection is about a mother who suffered abuse and who died, with her unborn child. And Hippolyta and Diana are those reincarnations of that mother and child. And that is why they have such a connection that they have. And then for you to change that and put that into, oh, I'm trying to make, Steve important. And I'm going to take the Clay origin and make it all about Diana wanting a child just for Steve. And even last issue, you are telling a story of Steve and glorifying him in the most cringiest, weirdest way possible, of Diana calling him, this, that because he was covered in blood and almost died, he was beautiful to her. Like, That was
So
weird.
she's more of the Xeno warrior princess stuff.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and I'm like,
But
again.
you can't
See,
tell
here's the
her.
thing. Diana is again another way that Diana's like Clark is that the writers tend to focus on her being a warrior or a diplomat, but never both.
Yeah, you have. Honestly, now they are making her just the warrior, and
Mhm.
she needs to be tamed. And who can tame her is Steve.
She
You
needs a
know,
man.
yeah. And that again, when you look at the Amazons and their history, you're just slapping just all of that history in the face because, you know, the Amazons fought to not be um, basically shackled to men, and to make it seem like they need to be tamed or or be submissive in a sense. I don't. The way King had issue 8 of Wonder Woman when Diana was basically like this Stepford wife or this housewife, and she goes against that way of life, but yet uh, basically 6 to 7 issues later, you have her in that state of, in a sense, a Stepford wife or a, you know, of that, or you want her to be a war widow or, or a single mother type thing. That again, very tone deaf, very, it was very backwards and done in a very insensitive manner of women that actually have lost their, you know, husbands in war. But again, Steve, he just was an idiot. So it wasn't really anything significant of his death. And again, they weren't in a relationship to care for it, for him to die. Um, and then again, making a baby with no type of buildup whatsoever is just something that a female reader as myself or just a character, um, that's just not how you do motherhood. That is not how you do a mother and newborn baby, whether it's a son or a daughter type, relationship. And we see
Exactly.
that even in the future, Diana is a toxic mother. So she is, again, you are wanting Diana to rebel against Hippolyta. And I don't know where writers are getting that from. Diana doesn't rebel against Hippolyta. She
Well,
wants
remember,
to.
King is the writer that had Diana punch her mom in the face.
Yeah, but that, even Rucka said that Diana would, rebel against Hippolyta. No, that's not her. She has a different path. She wants to change the ways of Themyscira in a sense of, that fear of the outside world. She doesn't want to be sheltered, but that still has nothing to do with being rebellious. And yeah, so I hope King gets off this book soon because one more arc or whatever, and honestly, Diana's character will be in the same boat that Batman, character is in right now because his solo book has just plummeted.
But by the way, if they put Jeremy Adams on this book, it will literally be the second time Jeremy Adams cleaned up Tom King's mess.
Oh yeah, because he did Wally
Wally West,
Westy.
exactly.
Yeah.
He literally retconned Heroes in Crisis out of continuity.
Well, he needs to retcon Trinity and
Get
just
in here,
retcon
man.
all this.
Get in here. By the way, Cameron has a question for us. Why does DC have an obsession with Diana being a bad mom?
Because, well, okay, so Diana, from pre-crisis, she had Fury with Steve, but that she was honestly a boring character, I think. So it kind of like they didn't care for her character. She was in Infinity Inc., but it just, I don't know, it just didn't sit right. So they retconned her, and she was someone else's daughter, um, and that was that. Then within like imaginary stories of like dreams and stuff like that, like Diana did have that um dream of her wanting to be a mother one day after she has accomplished, world peace and stuff like that. And those dreams were with Clark. And she was a good mother. Then you have, of course, Kingdom Come, where she has 5 kids with Clark. You have, I, the story is very weird and bad, but you have Act of God, where she has a son with Clark. You have Distant Fire 2 with her having a son. And of course, you have Aiko, the 1980s anime where she has a daughter with Clark. Um, and then you have Frank Miller's DKR with Laura and John from Frank Miller. Laura was she represents basically like that resentment that you have because the world is so judgmental and harsh. And her being the daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman, of course, she was going to be scrutinized and also hunted down by the government. So she had to be hidden away. Diana there wasn't a bad mother. She was a very protective mother. But again, if you see Frank Miller's view and how harsh um, things are, and it's also in the view of like his cynical, very psycho Batman, then you can see that that's not like Diana being a bad mother, and she's very soft and nurturing with John and Laura.
And Enzo asks, was Hunter Prince Wonder Woman and Superman's son?
Okay, so with that goes into what I was talking about. The whole bad mother thing really came from Hunter, and that was because within that time, Hitch having the future kids of the Justice League, that is when DC was basically hell bent on just Superman being married to Lois and having John, and Lois is the best mother in the world. So with Diana, of course, they want in every aspect of anything, they want to put down Diana to prop up Lois. So with Hunter and his storyline that Diana basically gave him up because he was a boy, and he was given to Clark and Lois to raise, but he was supposedly a bad child and gave them problems and stuff. But of course, they had to write that Lois was the best mom, ever. And but at the end of the story, it's basically that no, Diana was assaulted, and she um unalived herself to save her son, actually. And Brian Hitch, he says that Hunter was never supposed to be their son. However, within the story and the fact that he said that Hunter's origin was edited, it's probably so that he was supposed to be their son in some type of way. But because of editorial and what they were trying to promote at the time, they had to change it in some way, but it still doesn't make sense. Especially when you read the whole story and the ending, how close Clark and Diana are from beginning to end. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Like when they're all gathered and the kids are leaving, and then Clark and Diana are together.
And he has his arm around her shoulder. It's just really like it's just very weird.
Yeah, but I think that's a good place to leave it. So this was a fun one. So Britt, do you have any stories you want to tease us with?
Okay, so we have finally have chapter 3, which will be
Finally,
uploaded tomorrow, a Sunday.
about time.
And oh hush. Um and um you've given another idea for a finishing a couple of Valentines one shots. So, of course we'll talk about that afterwards. And then just updating more, pretty much all of the one shots that I have lingering. We'll upload those. And chapter 4 is, in the works as well. And we have our Olympia story, which I think with that story and how we talk about it, yeah, it will be like the favorite of all of the ones that we have
Probably.
because of how we are dealing with Clark and Diana's relationship and how we are starting it. And the way, yeah, the way it's starting, it is like for me at least, I'm kind of like, wow, this is, yeah, we are really going for, you know, drama right at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. It's I can't wait for you guys to read it. It's one of the best stories I think Britt and I have worked on, and we're working on Shelter from the Storm. So we got a lot of great stuff in store for you guys.
Yes.
And obviously, we have so many great episodes. I believe next week we are discussing how Superman and Wonder Woman were portrayed in Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman 1984, I believe.
Yes. We
And yet,
are
I think
doing a full review basically of DCEU.
of just the movies that feature Superman and Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's gonna be a fun one because that's like my channel was started because of the Snyderverse, as you guys know, and as Britt knows. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with that one. But anyway, stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. And Steve Trevor, Steve Never. She belongs to General Zod. He belongs 6 feet in the ground, which he is now. So I guess I won. Zoe is the
For
Maxibat for life. I'll see you later. Bye bye.